YouTube, Facebook, what's going on, man? Let's talk about these Brooklyn Nets. This is it's been the talk of the playoffs so far, being that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving haven't been playing so well, and being that the Boston Celtics have been pretty much D'ing them up. You know, a lot of people are saying they actually punking the Nets and Kevin Durant. I agree a little bit, but I got a kind of a different take on why that is, and some of it has to do with Boston playing really good defense and having a good game plan. But I think part of their game plan only works if the whistle and the referees allow it to work. So let's kind of talk about the series itself. What Kevin Durant and Kyrie is looking like in this series, and the way they're losing in the fashion they're losing in. What does that mean for Kevin Durant? Does it change anybody's outlook on Kevin Durant? It may or may not. Not me personally, um, because I can judge a player's game, and I kind of understand what the circumstances are. So I'm gonna discuss some of that. But I first want to get into some of the comments that has been getting popular and made, and the most popular one, came from Charles Barkley on the TNT halftime show. I'm gonna play what he said, and then I'll come back and comment. Hold on. Let me play what Barkley said real quick. I thought I had it recorded, but I guess not. Well, pretty much before, while I'm looking for it, Charles Barkley, he made the comment um, that Kevin Durant wasn't the bus driver. That's what he said. He said he wasn't the bus driver. Um, Let me actually find it, man. This is pretty ridiculous. Excuse me on that. I'm gonna find it. Um, Dog, I thought I had to record it. Well, anyway, so this what Charles Barkley's comments was. Um, he pretty much said, and I'm not going to quote him because I can't get the full quote, but he pretty much was asked about um uh the players in the playoffs, and he was going around saying people are claiming to be superstars or whatnot, and then someone asked him about Kevin Durant. Is he a great player? Is he a superstar? And his response was, these guys are going around here, claiming these championship rings, but these guys wasn't the bus driver for these rings. They were the bus riders. And he was making that comment directly to Kevin Durant. And Kenny Smith asked him, so you don't think Kevin Durant was the best player on those Golden State Warrior championship teams? And he said, no, I don't. So this is the thing with Charles Barkley. He has a dislike for Kyrie Irving. He is for the vax. He's already said he doesn't like the stance that Kyrie took. He don't respect it, right? The other thing is he was against the Nets from the beginning, especially when they got Harden, because he's just adamant about not liking super teams. I don't know what his issue is with Kevin Durant, but for you to come out of your mouth and say that Kevin Durant is not a bus driver, and he explained what he meant by bus driver. He meant a player that can lead a team to a championship, and I don't think Charles Barkley would say that if he didn't see himself as a bus driver in his own eyes. And if we go and reevaluate what Charles was able to do as a player, he played for Philly. He didn't get them to the championship. Um, he played for Phoenix. He won one MVP with Phoenix, and he got Phoenix to the championship, and they lost against Chicago and the Bulls, or Chicago and Michael Jordan. Um, Kevin Durant has done those same things in Oklahoma City. He won the MVP, and he led as a 23-year-old. He led Oklahoma City to the finals, just as Charles Barkley did. So, if Charles Barkley sees himself as a bus driver And I'm pretty sure if he would have won that championship against the Bulls, in his mind, he drove that bus. So in comparison, if Kevin Durant would have won that championship, and mind you, you got to give him credit for getting out of a strong Western Conference, having to go through Lakers, Dirk and the Mavs, and maybe they played San Antonio, I'm not sure. But going through those strong teams in the West to make it to the finals and lose to, Miami Heat big three that was, that kind of outmatched them because they're superstar players. There's three of them on one squad with them being in their prime and alongside having help off the bench from Ray Allen, one of the greatest shooters in the world, who was still playing at a good level, almost close to peak level. So they had a very strong team that they lost to. But my point is, you even if you don't think that Kevin Durant was a bus driver for Golden State, and we'll get to that Golden State, you have to give him credit for being a bus driver for OKC and getting to the finals just as well as Charles Barkley did. So I really don't understand Charles Barkley's reasoning for why he would say that about Kevin Durant, or anybody that will co-sign it. Now, let's get to the Golden State Warriors. Now, I don't understand why Kevin Durant would not be considered one of the bus drivers at the very least for the Golden State Warriors. I think he was the bus driver. Now, I think the reason behind that why people would say he wasn't is because Golden State was so good the year before and they won 73 games. And they say Kevin Durant pretty much joined the 73-9 team, and they had just came out of the finals even though they lost, and pretty much Kevin Durant just jumped on someone's coattail and was along for the ride. But that's not even true. All right, so the 79 and 73-9 Warriors team that won it, they won 73 ball games by being a really shut down defensive squad. And what was so good about their defense was they had Andrew Bogut as a rim protector. They had Vestas Azili as a rim protector. They had all types of they had Iguodala coming off the bench as another good defender. They had Leandro Barbosa as instant offense off the bench, and a couple of other shooters. I can't remember all their names, but all in all, in order for them to sign Kevin Durant, all of those guys they had, Harrison Barnes, 3-and-D guy that was in their starting lineup. I mean, the team was orchestrated. I want to say they had Jared Jack too. The team was orchestrated a certain way. And when they signed Kevin Durant, the team took a major overhaul. Not major in the main guys, because the main guys was Steph, Draymond, and Clay. Those are the three main guys. However, in order to bring in Kevin Durant, Harrison Barnes had to be let go. They let go of Azili. They let go of Bogut. Those are their two rim protectors. That's what made them pop. The fact that they could switch screens on the wing and have good wing defenders like Iguodala and Harrison Barnes. But also, if you actually got in the paint, we had shot blockers, right? Azili or Bogut. We had those two shot blockers. Now, those guys had to go. They let go around 7 rotational pieces. They're starting small forward and Harrison Barnes, both their rim protectors at center, and about 3 or 4 other guards and forwards that were rotational pieces. They had to let go to bring in Kevin Durant because, of course, they had to lower their salary and get guys on the vet minimum. So in comes Kevin Durant to add to Draymond, Steph, Clay, and I think they still had Sean Livingston and Iggy. Add Kevin Durant to that, and then bring in 7 new guys, who most of them was rookies. They had 2 or 3 new rookies. They went and got David West. They went and got JaVale McGee. They went, so you got 7 guys you got to incorporate. And the knock on that squad was, how in the hell are they going to play the type of defense that they played last year? Because the knock on Kevin Durant was he didn't play defense. Then you got David West, who's an undersized. He's not the same as a Bogut that's going to rim protect. Um, uh, all these new guys they bought in, these rookies, McGraw and Jordan Bell, just different guys they bought in that they didn't know if it was going to work out or not. So the notion that he joined the 73-19 is not even accurate. He joined a totally different squad. Of course, they still had Steph, Clay, and Draymond, but it was a different team. The team that won 73 is not just those three guys. It was a group of 12 guys in 73 games. If you take away 7 of those guys, and the greatest testament to that is the team that won the bubble ring in LA had a core foundation of AD, LeBron, and whoever else was there. Right. 2 years later, they don't make the playoffs. So you can't tell me that the same squad that won the bubble ring is the same squad as now just because AD and LeBron is still there. Just because you keep your foundation of guys and you switch everything else out, that makes it a totally new squad that you have to gel with, create chemistry with, and their strengths and weaknesses are going to be totally different, right? And honestly, the Lakers team changed just from losing Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee. That'll show you how important the rim protector is. Even if they're not getting major minutes, Dwight Howard and JaVale, losing Dwight and JaVale changed that Lakers team drastically. And then losing defenders like Rondo, Danny Green changed that Lakers squad drastically, right? So, I mean, we got to be honest about this. KD didn't go to Golden State and ride nobody's coattails. He went there and he was the leader of that team. How do we know that? Because they got 2 rings with them with ease against a team that beat them the previous year. And then as soon as KD went down, that same squad could not even get past Kawhi and Toronto. I mean, so let's be real. So I just don't understand what Barkley was really. It was cringeworthy to hear him say that and be serious about it, and it's cringeworthy when I hear somebody co-sign it. So that's my thoughts on the Barkley thing. But so let's go ahead and get into this Boston series. I think the Nets get the picture, right? I think the rest of the league get the picture. So here's what I think that's going on. The way Boston is playing defense is far beyond regular playoff basketball in this era. This is not typical playoff basketball. We know that playoff basketball tend to get a little more physical than the regular season. However, if you're going to say that and you're going to stand on that hill, I would like to be able to observe other series allowing one player to get the type of treatment that they're allowing in this Boston and then Brooklyn series on Kevin Durant. I don't think I've seen it nowhere else. I would think more teams would try that. If I could foul you up and down the court all day long, whether you had the ball or don't have the ball, and I can bump you all that. If you're going to allow that, I'm pretty sure teams take that approach to everybody, because there's a lot of teams who got a great scorer, a superstar that they would love to be able to rough up. But I don't see any other series allowing that type of treatment other than the Denver series. They kind of let Draymond Green have his way with Jokic a little bit. But that typically does happen with big 7-footers like that. For some reason, when they're getting guarded by someone like Draymond, they allow a little bit more. Shaq had to deal with it, and Shaq had to overcome it. But I guarantee you, if you look at every superstar, any star player that's in the top 10 of the league, when we talking about Luka, Devin Booker, Joel Embiid, Giannis, we're talking about those guys. I guarantee you, they're not getting or they're not getting that type of whistle that KD is getting. They're not allowing that. And it's not just Boston Celtics game plan and Boston Celtics ability to play defense. That's part of it, right? So they was already going to guard and defend KD exceptionally well. But if you look at the games they played him in the regular season, they were good games. But KD being able to get his shot off, even when it was contested, he was still able to get 39, 40 points, things of that nature. But if you just allow them to hack, pull, push, hand check, and do all these things all the game long, and send a message to Kevin Durant that, we're going to allow them to play you like this, and you're just going to have to get over it. I think it takes a toll, and I think they get the picture. It's in my opinion, it wasn't meant for the Nets to advance out of the first round, and they're just going to make sure that happens. Why? I don't know. I don't know if they're reluctant to reward a team who can only play a quarter of a season. I mean, that's basically what happened. I mean, in everyone's eyes, the Nets did not take this season serious, and as a business, that's not the type of team you reward. Like I mean, if I had my way, and it's 30 owners in the league, and if I had my way, I would not set a precedence by crowning a champion, or even allowing a team to even advance deep that has done the things this season that the Nets have done. They've been in the media for all the wrong reasons, and Kyrie Irving is the center of that. And there's not a lot of media members that even like Kyrie personally. They don't even really like him as a player. Whatever criticism they give Kyrie, the lowest criticism that they can get away with giving him, that they would give him. If just by them keeping him out of the top 75 will let you know how deep it can go for his disdain and his dislike, and how far they would go to act on that dislike. Like, it's one thing not to like a player, but when you act on it, and keeping him out of the top 75 and continuing to have media members try to justify why he shouldn't be in the top 75 it's just outright disrespectful, right? So, but that's how far they would go with it. So I'm not shocked that it'd be disgusting for them to have this team advance, because it sets the precedence that you cannot be serious about the regular season. Your star player can miss all the season and show up at the end and advance to the second and third round and possibly even the finals. They're not going to allow that. And here you got this Boston team. All players are vaccinated. All players are locked in. That's the team that we want to reward. We want to set a precedence that, hey, this is the blueprint for all franchises, not doing what the Nets are doing, right? Another thing, the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets differ in a whole bunch of other ways. Kevin Durant is barely like, it's just you can hear it in Stephen A., Shannon Sharp, everyone, when they talk about the Celtics and they talk about KD, Kyrie, they don't like these dudes, man. They just don't. So this wasn't gonna be their year from the jump. You can see it in how they're calling the games and how they're calling the whistle. No other superstar is getting that type of treatment. Even the game when he shot 20 free throws, he should have shot 50, to be honest with you, as much as they was fouling him. And despite as much as they foul him, Kevin Durant seems to end up being the one with the most fouls toward the end of the game. Like, and the Nets end up usually having the players in the most foul trouble. How can a team that is the most physical and who's fouling every play be the team with the less fouls? So when you look at the score sheet at the end of the game and you say, well, Kevin Durant shot 20 free throws, and the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets both shot as a team around the same amount of free throws, just on the surface, you would look at that and be like, oh, that's even. But when you watch the game and you see that, well, they're fouling Kevin Durant every play, right? And you can disguise that and say, well, it's playoff basketball, so that's cool. Because I heard the commentator say that, hey, in this series, that's not a foul. I heard Van Gundy say that in this series, that's not a foul, but that's a foul. But in this series, it's not. But then when the Nets started to play that physical way and that physical style on the other end, the whistle is quick with it, and you can't really dispute it because the commentators then say, well, okay, he got him on the arm, that's a foul. So when I look at it and I see a foul, you have a choice to say, well, we let that go because it's the playoffs, or you can say, well, we called this one because it's a foul. Like, so how do you decide if both are fouls? How do you decide which one you call and which one you don't? That's number one. Number two is who sits down, because we've already established that not every series is playing that style of physicality for the playoffs. It's just this Boston series, and a little bit with just Jokic and Draymond, not the whole squad. Everybody that's guarding Jokic is not doing to Jokic what Draymond is. It's just Draymond because he's undersized, so he's doing a lot of pushing and bumping and playing them real physical. They're allowing it, but they're allowing every Celtic that switches on Kevin Durant and plays him to get away with that. So my question is, who sits down at the meetings with the head officials and make the decision, okay, we're going to allow them to play in this series. We're going to allow them to get physical. Who makes that decision? And if you have a team that is very, how do I say, very, I would call Boston an elite defensive team. So when you have a team that's an elite defensive team who has the defensive player of the year and three other guys who are great defenders in Tatum, Horford, Brown. So you got a team whose advantage is defense versus a team whose advantage is offense. Who makes the decision to say, we're going to let them play really physical, knowing that that's advantage Boston? Like, who sits down and have that decision and say, this game is going to be played physical and we're going to allow it? Who makes that decision and why? To me, it's a legit question. Who makes the decision to make this a physical series and why? If every series across the board was this physical, I wouldn't have an issue at all. But the fact that they decided to make this series and have an invested interest in this series being physical and that physicality being focused on Kevin Durant, and they will let them get away with so much pushing and grabbing, I just want to know why. I mean, it's a good point to think about. Let me get to these comments. KD was the leader of the 2012 OKC team. Westbrook was just the issue that held them back, and plus the league wasn't letting the LeBron super team lose 2 years in a row. Sure. Steph, Dre, and Clay all said Durant was the man, and they told him when he got there that was his team. Look, but we all know that. But for personal reasons, Charles Barkley is he's just going to take shots at Kevin Durant whenever he gets a chance. For Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, the only way that they can ever get the media and the media members to say anything good about them is they have to play lights out. If they have any bad games or bad series, they're going to come for them because they haven't been too friendly with the media. There's no secret of that. They're not likable, right? So it's a lot of media members that, they're just going to always have something personal against them. Like Stephen A. Smith. What trips me out about Stephen A. Smith, what I don't like is for the last 2 years, for some odd reason, Stephen A. has more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times got on national TV and adamantly said, if I were an owner, I would not give Kyrie Irving a long-term deal. Now, why would you go out there on public TV in front of millions of people and make it known that's how you feel? Now, if you said it once, you got on air and you said it, once out of frustration. That's cool. I give you a pass on that. But you keep making a habit out of it, or like you got to get this out in the atmosphere, and you got to continue to get it out of there, because you got to sway as many people's opinion as possible on your opinion. I would not give Kyrie Irving a long-term deal. What sense do that make to put that out there in the atmosphere? Who are you putting that out there for? Is your opinion that important that you need to say it 10 times every time Kyrie? And this is the crazy thing about it. It ain't like Kyrie sat a game out because he was fasting. Like, he's playing through that, right? So if Kyrie sat a game out, then yes, I understand you saying something that's in line with Kyrie missing games. But for him to come back from the vaccine mandate, play away games until they lifted it 100% where he can play home games, he hasn't missed anything. Any game that he was available for, he played all the way up to the playoffs, and he's played every game in the playoffs, right? And he's played good basketball, and he's played big minutes. He's gave us a lot of fascinating moments, right? So when they're down 3-0, I get, okay, let's talk about the Nets and let's call a spade a spade. They're playing horrible. What you should be on air saying is Kyrie didn't show up. We expected him to have this type of game, especially in the game, game 3, what they really needed. It was a must win. Talk basketball to me. Get on the air and talk basketball. He got on the air and just out of nowhere, let me start talking about Kyrie missing ball games. What is them being down 3-1 got to do with Kyrie missing ball games? So he just had to come out there and say that again. I wouldn't give Kyrie a long-term deal. So who is paying Stephen A. Smith to say this? Is this some type of strategy? So whenever it is contract time, they can use that. Hey, look, I don't think you deserve a long-term contract because you miss games or something like that, which is really a false narrative anyway, because the last handful of games, or the last chunk of games Kyrie missed, had to do with a mask mandate or a vax mandate. That ain't on him. It's guys in Toronto, not Toronto, but guys in Philly, Thibault, who can't play in Toronto because of the max mandate or the vax mandate. I mean, it's not a big story. He decided not to get vax just as well as Kyrie. Right, so it's very weird that he keep wanting to talk about I wouldn't give Kyrie the money. And the other thing Stephen A. keeps talking about is that the players at the net CBA is going to get manhandled by the owners. He said that more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times. He keeps repeating it, and he's not repeating that for himself. Like, that does nothing for him, and I don't even think the average fan even wants to hear that and even cares. Right? We don't. So why are you on air talking about what the owners is going to do and manhandle the players doing the CBA? It makes no sense to me. But let me play a soundbite from one of the players. I think this is RJ Barrett talking about the Boston and the Nets series.
Right now, as you know, in the playoffs, like a team like Boston is going to look better just because the refs aren't calling as many fouls. And, something I've heard before is if all 5 players are fouling, the refs can't call all of them. So like every time he tries to catch the ball, they're hitting them, they're fouling them. And, but like you said, movement, just got to try to get off it and try to get them some easy buckets.
So that's RJ Barrett. I think it was on the JJ Reddit podcast, and he asked him, this was when it was down 2-0. He asked him about, what do you see in the series? And he pretty much said, look, man, the refs are allowing the fouls, which would be cool if they was allowing it both ways, but they're not. And also, if you're allowing fouls, that's always going to be advantage the defensive team or the most physical team or the most aggressive team. So if you got a team, or say for instance, even if it was football, if you got a team that is number 1 rated defense, like I think we've seen with New England in the Super Bowl, number one rated defense versus greatest show on turf in the Rams, right? You thinking like, how the heck they go guard Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, and Isaac King? There's no way they're going to guard them, right? Unless the whistle change and favors the defender. And what was they doing to those receivers? They was playing bump and run, and they will put their hands on those receiver and ride them for 5 yards, which was the rule, or sometimes a little bit past 5 yards, but the rest was allowing it. That was roughing those receivers up. So if you change the whistle, it's advantage the most physical team. So like I said, even if they was calling this game even and they was allowing the Nets to do the same thing to Jason Tatum on the other end, it still would be advantage Boston. However, it'd be more of a series because now you're allowing both teams to play a little bit defense. What they're doing is just out of control. It's just one sided. We're going to allow Boston to beat up KD and Kyrie, but we're not going to allow the Nets to do it on the other end. That's just crazy to me. Why and it's very suspect on why they would even set it up like that. And everybody notices it, but just for entertainment purposes, no one is going to get on national TV and say, look, man, they cheating, or this is fixed, or this is real. Nobody's going to get out there and say that because this is a whole business that everybody's involved in. If the NBA is not running, then everyone who gets paid to talk about the NBA messes with their pocketbook. It's the reason why they stopped letting Bill Walton call games, because Bill Walton, when there was a lot of cheating going on with the Lakers, when they had their three-peat run, when they cheated Sacramento out of a series and Portland out of a series, Bill Walton as a commentator would call that stuff out, and also Van Gundy. Van Gundy and Bill Walton would call that stuff out left and right. They're the one who opened my eyes to it and made me start watching the game a different way. But the NBA got tired of that stuff, and I don't know if it was a fine or whatever, but pretty much what it is like, look, man, we don't pay you as commentators. However, this game that we're running is part of why you're working right now. You can't work against us. You get what I'm saying? So they had to nip that in the bud, and they had to get the commentators on one accord and to be lockstep with the NBA. You can't be out there alerting people to the BS, right? Which is the same reason why I think the Brooklyn Nets is having so many issues now. While because if you look at what the NBA was trying to do, look, man, we just came out of a pandemic. We had to have a whole bubble to have a season, and that messed with our money. So, we don't want to have an issue like that ever again moving forward. And here it is, you got Kyrie Irving being the most popular guy to not be vaxxed. And if Kyrie Irving didn't get manhandled the way he did, maybe more people would have did what Kyrie Irving did, because you seen Andrew Wiggins try to do it and stand on his own too. But they was easily to pressure him back into getting vaccinated. But being that they couldn't get Kyrie to get on board with all the pressure they put out there, Stephen A going out there talking about him, every analyst was out there talking trash about this man. He still stood on his own too and said, no, I'm not getting vaccinated. Well, the NBA might seem friendly, and David Silver might, not David Silver, but Silver, whoever his name, the commissioner might seem friendly, but the owners and Silver are furious because that one person, as popular as Kyrie is and as good as he is a basketball player, that's too influential for you to go out there and look like a hero. You didn't get vaccinated and all this stuff. And, we're trying to get players not to do things like that. We're trying to get players, whenever the NBA say this is what we're doing, they wanted to be able to go out there and say, look, we have 100% vaccinated players and coaches, and set that type of example. And Kyrie Irving was pretty much against that. Adam Silver, thanks. Appreciate it, Bliss. But pretty much against that, so that player and that organization just by default is not going to get rewarded. You pissed us off. I'm not going to reward you. So yes, when the referees get together before the series and we talk about what we're going to call and how we're going to call it, what kind of series we're going to call. I mean, I'm not sure that they're talking about players in particular, but they got to know if we call this game physical and we allow this and we tuck our whistles in, it's going to favor one team over the other. They got to know that. And that's pretty much what it is. Here's Chris Broussard talking about it.
This is 90s basketball. The refs are letting the Celtics play 90s defense. And they're getting physical with Kevin Durant, and he's not used to it. He's used to having room, being able to do what he wants. They are getting physical with him, and that's the problem. Simple as that. We know he's not incredibly strong. He's not big. He's not a physical player. They are letting the Celtics be physical, and it's thrown Durant off his game. That's the explanation.
Like I said, everybody sees it. Everybody sees it. They can, point out some of the things that they see with, how they're calling the game. But like I said, like it's going to fall on deaf ears. Nobody wants to believe that what they're watching is not 100% reality. Nobody wants to believe that. Like you can't go to a WWE fan and tell him wrestling is fake, because the first thing he's going to say is then, hey, when he got hit and that blood came out, that blood was real. So, okay, yeah, the injuries are real. Some of it is reality, but the storyline is premeditated, right? And for sports, whether it's NFL or NBA, you just have to know that through the officiating, they try, and not in every game, but through the officiating, they will try to get certain outcomes. It just is what it is. And rightfully so. It's their business. If I'm an owner of a team and the analytics are telling me, if this certain franchise or this certain team gets to the finals, that means we're going to make probably $500 million more dollars than we would if this franchise make it. That at the end of the day, I don't care what squad. I could be Jordan and the owner of the Hornets, right? And we can all be at a meeting, and they can show me the bottom line and the money, and come out and tell me, hey, we just wouldn't benefit by your team getting to the finals. What am I gonna do? Say no, I want my team to win it so I can get less money overall? Because remember, however much the league makes annually is split amongst all the owners, right? So do I want to split a big pot or a smaller pot? Like no, like the stuff that we care about as fans and people who are addicted to the sport and all that stuff, and who go out there and argue about it. That's not what the owners are talking about at their meetings. Do you really think that those owners get in the room together and start talking about who the GOAT is, or MVP or anything? No, they're talking about money. None of that other stuff matters. And Kyrie Irving, 2 years in a row, the bubble, where he advised all the players not to go to the bubble, and then him taking the stance against the vax, which the NBA as a whole was lockstep with the science and with the vax. Here's Kyrie going the other way, right? When you do things like that, you put yourself on this side and you put the whole league on this side. How does that player get rewarded with a deep playoff run? It just doesn't happen. So look for the Nets not to have a lot of support. And they're gonna have to get everything they get. They have to earn everything they get the hard way. They just don't have. They don't like Simmons. They don't like Kevin Durant. They don't like Kyrie Irving. Right. So they just not. They don't have the characters as a part of their franchise that are easily marketable. So they won't get marketed. All right. Players like Luka, Giannis, those are the players that's going to get pushed to the forefront. So what can the Nets do? Which I'm predicting they lose tonight. I mean, it's impossible for them to win. There's no way they win. I heard Steven Jackson doing an interview on the Cowherd show, and he asked him about what's going on with the Nets. This is when they was down 2-0. And he talked about the physicality of the Celtics. Everybody will talk about the physicality in the defense, but no one's going to come out and say it's BS the way they're allowing them to play Kevin Durant. No one's going to say that, but they'll talk about that it's physical and all that stuff. And I kind of feel the same way. I know it's BS. I know it's physical. However, I would like to see Kevin Durant overcome it. So my first option would be I would like Kevin Durant to overcome that physicality. Right. So that's one thing. So that's kind of what Stephen A. Smith said. I mean, not Stephen A. Smith, but Stephen Jackson said, I want to see Kyrie Irving get through that. And he said, going back to Brooklyn, Cowherd Jackson, going back to Brooklyn, do you expect the whistle to change? Mind you, everybody knows it's the whistle. Everybody knows it's the whistle. He said, do you expect Brooklyn to get the calls in Brooklyn, going back to Brooklyn? And Stephen Jackson said, I hope not. Because you don't want to admit that the referees and the whistle has that much control over outcomes of games. He said, I would hope that the whistle stays the same, but Kevin Durant is able to overcome it. And that's what I would have hoped for as well. I keep the whistle the same, and Kevin Durant show everyone that you can play through that and you can adjust to it, even though you shouldn't have to, but show everybody you can. And if we've been honest with ourselves, when Detroit was playing, and this is why Isaiah don't have a lot of respect for Michael Jordan, because he knew if the referees allowed them to continue to play their style of defense against Jordan, Jordan would have never got past them. Right. And that's the truth about Michael Jordan and the Detroit Pistons. Michael Jordan would have never got past them unless they start calling the games honestly, because they was allowing them to actually just maul and now I'm not saying that they're doing it as bad and with the Celtics series. They're not doing Kevin Durant as bad as Michael Jordan was getting done with Detroit, but it's similar to the point where whatever was legal playoff physicality basketball, Detroit went beyond it just on Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, right? Or really mostly Michael Jordan. The league allowed that. But what happened is, money-wise, David Stern understood I have more superstardom and more marketability by marketing Michael Jordan as the great player he is, and than I have as a dynasty. Like Michael Jordan being the face of the league was better than the bad boy Pistons being the face of the league. So what happened was David Stern changed that and was like, we're not going to allow Detroit to do Michael Jordan like that no more. Call the game fair, right? And when you call the game fair, a 6'4" Dumars and a 6'1" Isaiah and a 6'4" kind of chubby Mark Aguirre had no chance with Michael Jordan, none whatsoever. So fast forward to now with Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets, if they called that game fair, there's no possibility for Boston to switch every screen and let Al Horford or Grant Williams or Adam Thies go one-on-one with Kevin Durant. Not in a million years on any earth can any of those guys, Horford, Tice, or not even Marcus Smart and Grant Williams, they have no chance guarding Kevin Durant one-on-one. But if you allow them, if physicality playoff basketball is here, if you allow the Celtics to go here with Kevin Durant, then they stand a chance. So it's just basically a decision on how we're going to call the game, what are we going to allow, and that's going to tell you if Kevin Durant go drop 40 on you, or is he going to look like what he looked like for these 3 games. The Nets are the new villains of the NBA. It's the Nets versus everybody. It's really Kyrie, right? Like they can stomach the media members in the NBA. They can stomach Kevin Durant. And that's why at the beginning of the season when Kyrie first decided that he's not taking the vets, the pressure was from Stephen A. Smith, Nick Wright, and Kendrick Perkins to trade Kyrie for Ben Simmons. That was like Philly has an issue, Brooklyn got an issue, trade issues. You get Kyrie in Philly, they don't have a mandate, he can play in Philly. And then you get Ben Simmons in Brooklyn, and problem solved, he go play. So that's what everybody was pushing for. They want and then when that didn't happen, Stephen A. Smith got on national television and lied and said, I know for a fact from my sources that Kevin Durant is the only reason why Kyrie hasn't been traded. He said the Brooklyn Nets would trade him for what, a bag of chips or whatever he said. The Brooklyn Nets would trade him right now if it wasn't for Kevin Durant. That's what he said. So you can see what they really want. What they want is so the media members don't like Kyrie Irving. The only reason why he hasn't been blackballed like Steph Marbury or Kaepernick is because of Kyrie. I mean, because of KD. So what the media members do is they put as much pressure as possible on KD in hopes that he would just turn on Kyrie and say, I can't get it done with you. Go ahead and trade him. They already suggested it. They want Kyrie on, they don't want him on a contender. They want him on some team just out there just being a sideshow. They want everybody to get up on him, because what that does is that's the way that they can fight back at Kyrie. For all the things that Kyrie has said to them, calling the media members puppets, not being too friendly with them, being condescending, thinking he's smarter than everybody. They're going to keep bringing up the flat earth. They're going to keep bringing up all this stuff. They just don't like him, right? But, I mean, what are you going to do? You're not going to run up and smack him. The only thing you can say is he's not a top 75 player. You're going to say he's not a leader. You're going to pick on him a little bit about what he's done. Every failure he had, you're going to amplify it, right? But then when he plays very well, you're going to be like, oh, okay, well, we already know. I mean, he's a great ball handler. That's all they say. Oh, Kyrie's a great ball handler, and he's very skilled. That's the only credit they ever give him. He's a great ball handler. He's very skilled. That's it, right? So this is the highest they go when he plays exceptionally well. But as soon as he don't play well, then everything, the real true feelings come out. What they really want is KD to feel like, I can't get it done with Kyrie, and get him traded so they can be like, I told you so. And what they really going to say about Kyrie when he has no more protection, no more backing from a franchise or from Kevin Durant, a great player who they really can't criticize too much, that's when they really go in and go for the kill. I wouldn't be surprised if the idea that they have for Kyrie is exactly what it was for Marbury. For him to end up somewhere in China playing ball. I mean, they blackballed Marbury. They got him up out of there. First thing, the Knicks gave up on him. The Knicks put him on the bench when he was the best player, and they wouldn't even play him. And the Boston Celtics wanted him and saved him at the end of the season. They got him, did a little playoff run, and he played well in the last series. So I'm thinking the Boston Celtics is going to re-sign him, because the championship team that the Boston Celtics had Rondo starting, Sam Cassell as the backup. When after they won that championship, Sam Cassell retired. So they never had a backup like Sam Cassell. They had Eddie House, but that's a little different. He's a kind of off-ball shooter, not a point guard, right? So Marbury showed up right before the playoffs. He played okay. He was still trying to get used to it, but the last series, I think that was the year that Kevin Durant tore his ACL, so they wasn't full. But Marbury played great, so I was like, man, hey, I hope they re-sign him. But not one team. He was a free agent that year. Not one team re-signed Marbury, so he had to go to China. That's what they want to happen to Kyrie. That's what they want to happen to Kyrie. So just keep watching their language, how they talk about Kyrie, and then how they always suggest KD do X, Y, and Z. I mean, they done lied so many times, man. KD is the only thing keeping Kyrie in Brooklyn, and they know it for a fact, and all this crazy stuff, man. It's just ridiculous. If the rest start calling it different, the net series, Celtic series, their manipulation would be exposed. Yeah, that's true. That's true, and that's kind of what Steven Jackson said. He said, "Do you think it'll change in Brooklyn?" He said, I hope not. He said, I hope not. So he is, number one, admitting there is something going on with the whistle, and that's that's helping the physicality of the Celtics and helping the outcome of the game. And he said, I hope it doesn't change, because if it changes and the Nets win, then that's going to tell me something that I don't want to believe. But he played in the league. He know better than anybody. I mean, still to this day, Chris Webber will admit that his Sacramento Kings was cheated out of a championship because of the Lakers. He admit that. Y'all remember that series? Y'all remember that fourth quarter when the Kings was up by like 18 and the Lakers came out in the fourth quarter and shot 30 free throws in one quarter, in the fourth quarter? He know he was cheated. Seems like they're allowing some hand checking on KD. I haven't seen that allowed all season. Correct. And the hand checking from power forwards that cannot guard him or stay in front of him. In what world, somebody, like, seriously, in what world does Al Horford, Adam Thies, and Grant Williams stay in front of Kevin Durant? In what world? So if you watch the game, and maybe not this game coming up because they already up 3-0, I mean, see, the thing about teams getting manhandled by the whistle, what happens is it's a mental breakdown when you understand that you're playing against a force that you can't control. You can't control the whistle, right? So a lot of players kind of like mentally break down, like, hey man, I mean, what you want me to do, right? So you got to be mentally tough to even continue to play against that. But it's a human reaction to kind of get down in the dumps. So it's not much that the refs have to do from here on out. The momentum for the whole series is going in one direction and has been going that way since the third quarter in game 2. And you know what happened in the third quarter in the game 2. First of all, the Celtics came out in game 2 and was up by like 17. When the Celtics made their run, the Nets decided to start roughing them up on defense. And what the referees did is start calling it very tight. They was calling it loose all game, but when the Nets started to ramp up on defense, they called it very tight and started calling a lot of ticky-tack fouls. The way they disguised it is that they was also calling ticky-tack fouls for the Celtics, so it looked like it was fair all of a sudden, right? I text my cousin and said, hey, the Brooklyn Nets are still up by 4 points. However, this is what I expect, because they're calling ticky-tack fouls now on both ends. This is what I expect. They're going to call the ticky-tack fouls, and what Brooklyn is going to do is be like, okay, so y'all not allowing that, so we're going to stop. But the Celtics is not going to stop, right? So in the fourth quarter, the Celtics are still going to be being very physical, and the Nets are going to kind of be, they're going to play honestly without their hands, and that's when the Celtics is going to break out, because that's when they're going to start allowing the physicality again. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So ever since the third quarter of the second game, the momentum has been going in one direction. And it's not going to stop. It's like going down the hill. So you might see Brooklyn come out and give them a good first quarter. But I mean, to be honest with you, this one might be a blowout. This game might, they might not even make it out of it. It might be over by halftime. You know what I mean? Because it's just a lot to deal with. But moving forward, more comments. Hold on. Brooklyn would have mauled Philly. Yeah, so but this allows Philly to advance and make Philly Milwaukee Eastern Conference Final, which is the most even matchup in the East. I think Brooklyn could have Brooklyn matched up well against Philly, against Toronto, against Miami, against Atlanta. So those 4 teams, if Brooklyn played those 4 teams, I think they can win. But Milwaukee and Boston, I always thought was going to be an issue for Brooklyn, being that those 2 teams have been together so long and they gelled all year long, and Brooklyn is a team that's just kind of like thrown together at the trade deadline, and they're trying to, they're going uphill. That's, the playoffs is a small margin of error, and when you got a team that's not clicking 100%, you're going to have more error than the team that is clicking 100%. So I always thought Boston had an advantage anyway. Also, Brooklyn weakness is they're starting small point guards, and they're coming off the bench with small point guards, and that's Seth Curry, Kyrie Irving. Dragic, he's tall, but he's not the type of physical defender that, I still put him in the category of small when you're trying to guard Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So you got Seth, Kyrie, Patty Mills, very small. Then you got Dragic as your biggest one, but you would rather play Patty Mills or Seth Curry because you like the 3-point shooting they give. So when you got small point guards, small two guards like that you're trying to put on the floor at the same time, and you're playing a team that has Tatum and Brown, and the smallest guard they got in their rotation for their starters is Marcus Smart, who's 6'4", but stocky, it's going to be bully ball, right? Which is another advantage if you're allowing physicality against Kevin Durant, but then on the other end, it's already a mismatch with Patty Mills trying to stop Brown from getting to the hole. You have to allow me to get physical with Brown as well. But they're not allowing Patty Mills to hand check Brown, and they're not allowing no one to play Brown and Tatum the way they're playing KD. And that's what the series is basically is. Just a little hand checking, to be fair, not full on 90s style. But it doesn't have to be, because if you give me the bigger, slower guy and Al Horford on me, and I got him on the island one-on-one, Kevin Durant wins that matchup 9 times out of 10, or 10 times out of 10, he wins that matchup. But if I'm trying to blow by you for a layup, my initial first step, if you're allowed to hit my hip to negate the direction that I'm going, especially if you give me a fake and you get me going one way and you go the other way, when I put my hand on your hip, that allows me to catch back up when you got me off balance. That allows me to catch back up with you, catch my balance, and it stops your initial first step just slightly so you don't blow by me, right? So you always see when Kevin Durant's going, they hit him with the hip, and then they throw their hands up and move their feet like they're not doing nothing, right? But they're allowing them to do that initial hitting the hip. Sometimes if they're on the side of them, if Kevin Durant is able to get his shoulders a little bit past them and they're on the side, then they will go ahead and put one hand up and put the other hand on his hip and push him in a direction to where if he tries to stop and pull the jump shot, he's going to get pushed off balance when he's shooting that jump shot. And you can tell a person like Kevin Durant is not going to come to the post-game conference and say, look, man, they fouling the hell out of me, man. They're not calling it. But like, he's not going to say that, because in his hand, I want to be able to beat this. I studied Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan got through this. I want to be able to beat this. Kobe Bryant beat this. I want to be able to beat it. So he's being tough on himself. He want to be able to beat it. And you seen him come in game 3, he only took 11 shots, because if you look at game 2, a couple of them pull-up jump shots he shot, you see Patty Mills in the corner wide open, Seth Curry wide open. So out of his own mouth, he said, I watched film and I seen that some of the shots I was taking, I had open 3-point shooters. So he came out with a assertive effort to try to find those shooters instead of pulling the jump shot like he would use to. So, he was doing that a lot, and he was finding shooters. But now, it looks like he's not been aggressive enough, because they only took 11 shots for a whole game in a game that was a must win. So I hear what you're saying. I'm kind of late on here, but what you think about the Ben situation for tonight? So with Ben Simmons, you been down 3-0, and if I'm looking at it, evaluating it, I got a herniated disc. It's it was bad enough for me not to be able to play the whole season. I've been with the Nets for 2 months now, and my herniated disc was bad enough to have me out the whole season. That's the back injuries are no joke, right? If you ever had a herniated disc, especially if you have one of those back injuries where you might need surgery, like Michael Porter Jr. Right. So Michael Porter Jr. had back surgery in college. He had another one in the pros. He missed his whole season. T-Mac's back injury retired him. Larry Bird's back injury retired him. Right. It's no joke to have no back injury, and it's a cause for concern when you're 24 with these back issues and 6'11", right? What Ben Simmons brings to the table for the Brooklyn Nets is physicality, defense, rebounding, playmaking. In order for him to give them that, he needs to be healthy. So you can have him out there barely moving. But what if he messes something up real bad to where now it's like James Harden was. The whole summer, that hamstring issue was an issue for him. So he comes back to training camp fat, out of shape, and still wasn't 100% healed in his hamstring. Right. Or a situation like Kevin Durant. I want to help my team win a championship. I got this bad calf strain. They say it's a 1 month injury or 1 month recovery. I feel okay. I'm trying to work real hard to get back to help my team because Kawhi whooping their tail. Let me come back and help my squad, and I come out and I tear my Achilles. Right? So if anyone knows this situation is delicate, it's got to be KD and Steve Nash, because Steve Nash was with the organization in Golden State when KD was there. So rushing him back, if the doctors is saying we want to be able to have him go through a week of workouts and scrimmaging and one-on-ones and 3-on-3s and then 5-on-5s, and every day he does that, we want to evaluate it the next morning to see if he had any back soreness or any back pain, right? Because if he could do it that way, then we think we could get this thing under control without having flare-ups. That's the perfect situation to be in. So being down 3-0, I don't think the risk is worth the reward, because the reward is what? We win and we go down 3-1. Do we think we're going to win 4 in a row because Ben came back? So I think what the Nets organization and Ben Simmons representation have come to the conclusion of is it's not worth him coming back for one game if this is a closeout game that we probably go lose, or we only win this one game and we go back to Boston and then it get closed out in Boston. You get what I'm saying? So we'll just say, look, the best thing is, look, we got a bright future ahead of us. Let's let him get super healthy. He got a whole summer to get healthy. And then you get to come back next year, because remember what I just told you. The Brooklyn Nets issue is their perimeter defense. They solved their problem in the paint with defense with Drummond and Claxton. They solved that problem. That was their first issue, because they had Durant playing a lot of center, and then they had LaMarcus Aldridge playing a lot of center when he can't even jump over a phone book anymore. So that was their initial issue. But with the James Harden trade, they get Drummond that helps them with the paint, but they're still small on the perimeter with Patty Mills, Seth Curry, Kyrie. Guess what happens next year? Next year, you get to come back with a fully healthy Joe Harris, who's a 3-and-D guy, not just a regular 3-and-D, like a real knockdown shooter, 3-point shooter, who also is 6'4", 6'5" that plays good defense. The same thing that Golden State got with Klay Thompson. They got with Joe Harris. He's the poor man version of Klay Thompson. Not as good of a shooter, not as good as a defender, but he's daggone good at both. Right. So you get to start that beside Kyrie. So you get to have Kyrie at the 1, Joe Harris at the 2. Right. Then you get to have Ben Simmons 100% healthy at the 3. Right. And he can guard 1, 2, and 3, and 4. He can guard 4 positions. Right. So you can switch all those screens, just like they always do. So you're good. Then you got Kevin Durant at the 4, and then you got Drummond at the 5. Everybody on that starting 5 can stay in front of their man. Kyrie might be the weakest link, but that's great. Then you get to come off the bench with Seth, Patty Mills, Bruce Brown, Claxton, and then you still got a number one. You got a first round draft pick. We don't know what they go select with that or who they pick up in free agency. Right? I like it. I like it a lot. So I would be excited about this summer. The loss of Joe Harris really hurt the Nets, and that doesn't get talked about enough. He was a defender, but also LA and Blake not getting tickets coaching issue, which shows me Nash ain't it. I don't know what Nash issue is with Aldridge and Blake, because they could have helped out a whole lot, especially Aldridge, man. With him being able to shoot the mid range and having post skills. But I think the issue with Aldridge and Blake is Nash wanted to switch every screen. He wants that defense to be like Golden State's was. Remember, Kevin Durant and Nash both were with Golden State. Nash wants to model his team like Golden State. He want to be able to switch everything on defense. And Blake, every time he gets switched on a wing, his feet just not is fast enough. He gets cooked a lot, right? And I noticed that. And the same thing with Aldridge. Aldridge, he's just not the athlete he used to be, man. And he wasn't a super athlete to begin with. But Aldridge, he gets cooked a little bit too when they try to switch. So, that's the thing with that. But for them not to get any tick at all, I understand that for them not being in the starting lineup, but them not to get tick at all, it doesn't make sense. And you got to at least try it. Like, if I can see that Patty Mills can't stay in front of Jaylen Brown and keep him from the hole, you got to try a bigger guy and see what happens. I mean, Blake did good on the switches when he got in last game. 2-1 Ben plays 3-0. Ain't no point. Yeah, I agree. If they would have won that first game in Brooklyn, if they would have won that game and it was 2-1, I think that risk is worth it, because he gets to come back and he gets to help them tie it up and go back to Boston. So I think that's worth it. But now 3-0, I don't think it's worth it. If somehow Brooklyn can get this to a game 7 or a game 6, Ben will play with did you hear what I said at the beginning? That it's not getting to a 6 or 7. The league is not going to allow it. Look, listen, they're humbling the Knicks and Kyrie and KD right now. They're humbling them. So it's clear as day. Like, it's 100% clear as day. They're humbling them, right? They're the only team in the playoffs that hasn't won a game yet. Even the Hawks won one, right? This is very humbling for them. It's going to get talked about all playoffs. It's going to get talked about all summer. And the goal for this is don't try that BS y'all tried again this season ever again. Right? That's the takeaway from this for the Brooklyn Nets. It's very similar to when the Panthers went to the Super Bowl and they got cheated out of the Super Bowl so Peyton Manning can get his last ring before he retired and ran off into the sunset. And Cam Newton complained about it. He complained about it. He pouted. He didn't want to talk to the media afterwards. I think he said a couple of things about it during the summertime and what happened the next season. Well, guess what? You was the MVP in the face of the league last year. You had a squad that was 16-0 going to the Super Bowl, and you want to get mad because we wanted to hook up Peyton Manning. Well, guess what? You ain't getting no more favor. And by the way, we go give you Von Miller again for game 1 to start the season off, and we ain't calling nothing, no flags. We just go let them come beat your head in, and for the whole season, Cam Newton was getting headshotted and slammed on the ground and hit when he scrambled and when he tried to slide. I mean, it was tearing that man head up, and they was sending the message to him: shut your freaking mouth. We create superstars. We can make or break you. You're not that good. And they took their favor off of Cam Newton. It happens all the time, man. So you like I said, in order for the Nets to get back in favor, they just got to get back in line with the NBA, man. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what it's gonna be. Mel, you giving too much hope for next season, bro. You think that's too much hope? No, it's not too much hope. I mean, ankle surgery for Harris. He tried to get back. He had to have a second one, so he's done for the season. He gets to come back healthy, right? Kevin Durant, knock on wood, so far hasn't gotten hurt. Neither has Kyrie, so they go into the summer healthy, and they go regroup and refocus. Maybe Steve Nash come back as the coach. Maybe he doesn't. Either way, I'm fine with it. I think they can win with Nash. I mean, he ain't no worse than no other first, second year coaches. Like, you got to have talent, and your talent got to be healthy for the whole season, at least the final stretch. Like, you got to be whole. So, and then you need a little bit of luck and a little bit of favor, all that good stuff, right? That's everybody get a little favor and a little luck, but yeah, I mean, they come back. If they keep Nash, fine. If not, then hopefully they hire somebody that's really good. But them coming back healthy, I like that starting five. I like Drummond, Ben Simmons, and KD at the forwards. You can't beat that. That's a good front court. And then for your back court, Harris and Kyrie, that's great. Or if you still want to go with Kyrie and Seth and go small again, that's fine. But I would rather have Seth come off the bench and be instant offense, and he could still have his same 15 points a game average coming off the bench. He did it with Philly. So I would start Harris for defenses or purposes, and plus he's still giving me the 3-point threat, and it makes us bigger. It's a totally different team next year when you add Harris and Ben Simmons. You get bigger and you get stronger at the weaknesses that you had. This squad wouldn't have any weaknesses. Their only weaknesses would be if the NBA want them to be successful or not. Ben Simmons is selfish. He could have played game 3 or tonight's game 4. Boston's defense is smothering Durant and Kyrie. They have a simple system, make everyone else beat them. Ben Simmons is not selfish, and if he was selfish, what's wrong with being selfish? Like, I mean, we can acknowledge selfishness as being different from other great players, but we can't use being selfish as a knock. It's just different. Like, you got some players who will play through a messed up back, and you got some players that saying, I'm not going to risk my whole career for my back. I mean, do you like the ending of Grant Hill and T-Mac? Grant Hill played on an ankle that needed surgery for Detroit for a whole year, and he almost died because when he finally had ankle surgery, his ankle was so bad and the recovery was so hard, and he had to continue to have different ankle surgeries and putting pins in there. And I don't know if you know about surgeries and getting your body cut in and cut open, but it does. Your body has a reaction to it. So Grant Hill, and you Google this, Grant Hill actually almost died from a staph infection from getting his ankle cut up too many times. And that was only because he didn't want to get the surgery because he was in the middle of the season and he wanted to slide for Detroit. Will you slide for your team when is your body on the line? Some players will, some players won't. But at the end of the day, if you decide to be selfish and say, I'm gonna do what's best for my actual body, then I can't be mad at you. I can't be mad at you. Ain't nobody asked them to go down 3-0. You can't blame it on Ben Simmons, right? I'm not gonna rush my back. You go to T-Mac. He played on his bad back with Houston. T-Mac even played on a bad ACL. He tried to play on. I watched the game live when he was playing with Yao Ming. He messed his ACL up, and he was like, you know what? We got a good chance to win this year with Yao Ming. He didn't want to get surgery, so he tried to rehab it for like a week or two. And I remember the game he came back, and he couldn't even jump off that leg. He was trying to jump off his right leg. He couldn't even jump off his left leg. That's how bad it was. And you could see it. He couldn't even dunk. He was out there trying to play. So he was shot up with all types of cortisone and all that stuff. That's not impressive to me. It used to be when I was a young man and I thought, oh, that's how you're supposed to do it. Hell nah. What I'm doing that for? Because the owner wouldn't even come watch the game with the flu. He would stay home. So you want me to come out there and nah, just because you paying me doesn't mean I'm going to go out there and play on a torn ACL or play with a herniated disc through pain. You're not about to shoot me up with cortisone. Hell no. No, I'm not doing it. And that's not selfish. And if you call it selfish, I don't think that's a bad thing. Being selfish is not bad. It was selfish for James Harden to request a trade to go to Philly, but y'all applauded that, right? You applauded James Harden going to Philly, but that was selfish. That was for him. I want a ring, and forget my friends over here at Brooklyn, who I begged to come ride their coattail for an easy ring. I get here, all of a sudden I don't like the situation because Steve Nash is coaching me, and I don't like the way he coaching me, and I want to go to Philly so I can have the ball in my hand all the time and do Harden-like things. That's selfish. So you got to call that selfish too. And being selfish ain't a bad thing. So who won the trade, Philly or the Nets? I'm gonna say the Nets, because they got 2 first-round draft picks, right? So they get to use one of those to address a need this summer, and that's a draft pick that Philly don't have. They get Ben Simmons, who addresses another need, defense and size on the wing. Then they address another need with Andre Drummond with defense and size in the paint. And then they get a shooter in Steph Curry, who's a 15 points per game player, whether he's starting or coming off the bench, right? And then 2 draft picks. Philly get James Harden and Paul Millsap, right? James Harden is giving you 40% or below shooting. If you take away those first 2 or 3 games where it was the honeymoon phase, ever since then, he's been shooting poorly. And the only numbers you can really go to vouch for what James Harden is doing is his assists, but he's getting those because he always got the rock, right? They're winning because Philly is playing lights out defense, and Joel Embiid is playing MVP caliber basketball, and the NBA is going to reward them for doing the right thing. Like all these teams is doing the opposite of what the Brooklyn Nets are doing. You're going to see them get the favor of the whistle. So in the East, that's going to be Philly, the Bucks. I don't even think they that high on Miami. Philly and the Bucks are the 2 teams. Philly and the Bucks. The Brooklyn Nets is the public enemy number 1. They got to change that. So I still think Brooklyn won it, because if Philly doesn't win it this year, they don't win it this year. How do you like their chances next year? You think Harden comes back better when he's older? You think Embiid is going to have another season like he did this year with the MVP? You think he's going to have another 9 injury plagued season? Right, their window is like right now, and then maybe next year. But with Philly or with Brooklyn, I like what they got moving forward. You got Ben Simmons, who just signed a contract with Philly, so he's locked in. Kevin Durant's locked in. Kyrie can, he might got 2 more years left on his deal. Their stars are locked in. They just got to re-sign their help and see what they're gonna do with these draft picks. I said somehow they got to get blessed by the basketball guys to let that happen. Yeah, for sure. Cam ain't been the same since. Yeah, you're right. I think Nash is gone if they get swept. Yeah, I mean, and that might be good for the Brooklyn Nets. They might need a new voice, but I didn't like the hire from the beginning. I was like, why get a new guy a shot? With this Bugatti or this BMW. Why get this new guy that? Like, why? I'm like, man, why don't the black coaches ever get inherited a Bugatti? But I guess you can say Monty Williams kind of got inherited. Well, no, actually he didn't, because of course, the Phoenix Suns wasn't amazing before Monty Williams got there, and they didn't have CP3. They only had Devin Booker and Ayton, and at that point, Ayton hadn't broke out as to what he was and to what he is now. So Monty Williams helped them get to it, and it started in the bubble. So he didn't even get inherited anything great, but Steve Kerr got inherited an awesome squad, and so did Steve Nash. I mean, Boston underachieved so many years in a row that everyone had to begged for Brad Stevens to get fired. So even Udoka didn't inherit gold. If Brooklyn loses no pieces and gets 100% healthy, it's scary hours and the league is on notice. I agree. But remember, like I always say, they're gonna need some favor as well. Ben Simmons isn't selfish. James Harden wanting out of Houston and getting fat to do it is selfish. Him wanting out of Brooklyn the moment it got hard and got injured until he was dealt is selfish. Facts. I agree. I just said that too. Ben had 82 games to heal up. He's just afraid of playing bad and getting criticized. I disagree. He got hurt when he got to Brooklyn. And he aggravated his the herniated disc during practice. So you can't say he had 82 games to heal because there was nothing for him to heal from. I trust Harden more than Ben, to be honest. But KD is getting locked up though. He's getting locked up. But you got to give credit to the Boston Celtics and the refs. They're all doing a great job. Hire Mark Jackson. Interesting. I don't think Mark Jackson's offensive scheme is sophisticated enough for what Brooklyn has. I got to give Steve Kerr credit, even though Mark Jackson laid the foundation in Golden State. Steve Kerr unlocked something for that squad. I love their schemes. I love their offensive sets. I love their free flowing motion. I love that everyone shares the ball. I love their offense. So I didn't see all of that coming from Mark Jackson's scheme. So he's a good hire for everything up here and everything here in your heart and in your head. He's that type of hire. He's that type of coach. But schemes, I'm not sure, but we'll see. I would like that hire. I would like that hire in Charlotte. That would be a good hire in Charlotte too. So you think they won the trade, but if the Nets get swept in the first round, nah. And to be honest, I don't trust Ben. I don't think Ben wants to play. That's fine. Cause everything I said still stands true. They got 2 first-round picks. They got Drummond. They got Seth. They got Ben. And I'm not asking Ben to be my number 1 or my number 2. I'm asking him to play defense and contribute something Harden wasn't giving us. He wasn't giving us no defense. He was, so this I don't trust Ben started from 1 game in Atlanta. Everything before that, there was no knock on Ben, other than he didn't shoot threes. Okay, cool. He don't shoot threes, but he plays defense, rebounds, and play makes. Okay, cool. I'm fine with that. Right? I'm cool with that. But we have more of a history with James Harden with the Rockets, having struggles in his big games in the playoffs. So it's you can look at it in either way and nitpick it. But I mean, Ben Simmons with Kyrie and KD is to me a more scary trio than Maxey, Harden, and Embiid. I just don't believe in Harden like that. Harden's a good player, but you'll see. You'll see. Let the playoffs keep going on and watch that 76ers series, and we'll see. Nets will win 1 and lose in 5 or 6 if they finally start scoring some big points. It's not gonna happen, man. They're not gonna change the whistle. I would, like I said, I would like for Kyrie and Kevin to figure it out, man. But it's hard when you're gonna let, like, even if I'm dribbling, you allow max contact. If I'm shooting, you allow max contact, and if I'm posting up, you allow max contact. It's very hard, and that's kind of why Kevin Durant has so many turnovers, because he's getting his arm, elbows hit just constantly, right? And even when they're not getting hit, the anticipation that the contact is coming is messing with him. Because I seen one of his turnovers when he was top of the key with Grant Williams, and he was just, in his crouching stand like he was about to blow by, and just a simple crossover, and then Grant Williams' hand came across because it looked like Kevin Durant was about to change direction. So he was about to put his hand on his stomach to impede him or slow him down. But he didn't actually touch him in his stomach, because by the time he crossed over and he saw that hand coming, he just lost the rock, because mostly that contact was getting to his chest. Like every time he tried to go somewhere, boom, it would be a push on his chest, and it'll slow him down. So I saw that turn. I was like, man, nobody even touched him on this one, but he's just anticipating the contact, right? And it's just crazy. And same thing with the passing, man. They can't even get a pass off in the passing lane because either they're denying the ball and they're able to just do whatever they want to and push. So you don't know if that pass go get to him or not, because if he push my guy and they don't call it, then I know the defender's going to get it when he's denied it. Even when they don't deny and they behind him in the post three quarters of the way, on the other side, they're getting steals that way too. So it's like they got everything like just from that whistle, it changes everything in that game, in the series, man. And I just don't see it changing. I don't see it changing. Is it safe to say Kerr got a Lambo, broke down, and then fixed it up to run it even better? It wasn't broke down. A couple of things happened when Kerr showed up there. One, the Warriors under Mark Jackson's leadership was emerging. Remember, he said when he was commentating, when everyone finally acknowledged that Kerr and Klay Thompson was the best shooting duo in the league or that we ever seen. And Mark Jackson made the comment because he was calling that game, and he said, where y'all been? I've been saying that they was the best shooting duo. He was like, the baby already been born. Y'all just not getting to the hospital. One of my favorite quotes from Mark Jackson. He said, the baby's been born. Y'all just getting to the hospital. But no one knew how good Kerr and Klay Thompson was together, right? That was emerging. And at the time, the Clippers was Lob City, and they was the team to beat. They beat Golden State one year. So they was emerging. So what happened when Kerr got there, changed the offense a little bit, kind of unlocked some things. At the same time, Lob City, they had an injury every year in the playoffs. One year it was Blake, one year it was CP3, and then I want to say the third year was Blake again, right? So they had a major injury in 3 straight playoffs, right? So, two things happened. They made it a little bit easier for them. They stayed a little bit healthier than the Clippers, and they was able to get by them, and Kerr showed up. So it was, like I said, you got to have some luck and you got to have some favor. I think people don't trust Ben because he played 7 games and scored 2 points in 7 fourth quarters. That's almost 2 games of playing time. He was a ghost in the fourth quarter versus the Hawks. Yeah, I remember we could say that same thing. Well, we could say that same thing about KD in these fourth quarters and these 3 games against Celtics. He hasn't been scoring a lot of points in the fourth quarter. Neither has Kyrie. We can say that about LeBron in his matchup against the Mavs. I think he scored like probably the same amount, about 7 points in 4 quarters. A lot of things happen in 4 quarters, and I think that to use that stat to say you don't trust a player, it's kind of weird, especially when they never relied on Ben Simmons' points to win their games. They relied on his rebounding, his playmaking, and his defense. They relied on Joel Embiid's points to win games. So that's just like me saying, the Bulls lost, and Scottie Pippen only gave them 4 points in 7 fourth quarters. I'm like, well, what the hell was Jordan at? Did you need a bucket? Go to Jordan. So Ben Simmons got a lot of blame, and he was used as a scapegoat because Joel Embiid wasn't getting it done. Joel Embiid was the one showing up out of shape at the beginning of the season. In fact, he was the one who kept getting injured throughout the season. He was the one who missed those major free throws in the fourth quarter against the Hawks. He was the one who missed that layup. He was the one who wasn't getting the points when they was going to him. So if I'm the guy and I'm the primary scorer, I cannot look somewhere else and blame someone for not scoring in the fourth quarter. That's my job. Just like we're doing Kevin Durant now. Kevin Durant, you're the scorer. You have to overcome it. So, I mean, that's fine. You don't have to trust Ben Simmons, but no one ever was relying on his points in the first place. You can't let your center shoot better than you. Even Giannis shoots better than Ben. Yeah, but Giannis' center is Lopez, and Lopez shoot better than Giannis. Nobody drafted Ben for his shooting. Y'all expect Ben to be a shooter, and that's not even his game, correct? Ben could have changed with the times instead, like Joel and Giannis. So Giannis has a different situation in Milwaukee than Ben has. The team is Giannis's, and it's on his back, and the offense is built around him. And the reason why that's important is because when you have a player who's this is the last point I'll make, then I got to shut it down. But yeah, when you got a player whose primary skill set is getting to the hole, getting downhill, and getting dunks and layups, right? So that's kind of what LeBron was in Cleveland his first stint, right? So his strong suit wasn't his shooting, so that you could say that was his weakness. So whatever your star player weakness is what you have to surround him around to overcome that. Shaq was an inside threat, a force in the post and a dunk. He wasn't a shooter. So what did they put around him in Orlando? Shooters. Dennis Scott, Nick Anderson, Penny, all could knock it down. Even Horace Grant had a jump shot, but he just wasn't shooting threes. So you put shooters around Shaq. Same thing with Olajuwon. Olajuwon is a center, or anybody who scores in the paint. It'll behoove you not to have nobody else in the paint so I can do my work. And for you to do that, that means everyone has to be able to hit down, knock down a jump shot or a three. So any big man that posts up, you surround him with shooters. Well, if you have a guy like Giannis or LeBron whose skill set is getting to the hole, you can't have someone standing in the paint just waiting on them, because now you clogging the hole up for me. So you have to have the floor spread and the paint wide open. So now I can use Giannis going to the hole, and if you double, he can make that pass. Ben Simmons a better passer than Giannis. So if Ben Simmons had a team built around him, they wouldn't have Joel Embiid in the post clogging the lane up, right? So remember when they couldn't figure it out in Philly, they was trying to kind of do that, and everybody was saying Embiid is shooting too many threes, which I agree. And Max Kellerman made the point, look, I think you need to split Ben and Embiid up. Trade Ben, let him have his own team so he can do the same thing that Giannis is doing, right? So for Giannis doing that, and then he would face a good team in the playoffs that would just back all the way off of him and give him the jump shot, that forced him in the summer to work on his jump shot. Right. That same thing would have happened for Ben as well. And he's been working on his jump shot as well. But, but that's just the difference between Giannis and Ben Simmons. Giannis doesn't have Embiid in the lane, who is also the number one player on the team. Giannis is the number one. So everything is built around him. In Philly, everything is built around Embiid. I can't defend a point guard who averaged 14 to 18 points a game. That's not good when points are the most important thing in the whole game, especially if you play 26 to 30 minutes. True, they could have gotten more shooters, but they had JJ and Toby, who were sharpshooters. Toby ain't no sharpshooter. A true point guard isn't there to score, if we're being honest. And honestly, Ben is really a point forward, not a point guard. He can pass, defend, and bang down low. Shooting is needed for him. Oh, isn't needed for him. Yeah. And look, and the best point guard we got in the game, or the third best point guard, because I think Steph and Kyrie is the 1 and 2, but number 3 is CP3. Man, they needed him last night. He only had 4 points. So I mean, it happens, man. And guess how many he scored in the fourth? So look, what we do is, instead of looking at a game and looking at a situation and just coming up with an objective opinion about it, what we do is we see players that we already got a dislike for, and we find ammo to use to throw darts at them. And I think that's what you're doing with Ben Simmons. You just don't like him personally, so it doesn't matter what happens. Whatever ammo he gives you to use, you're going to use it. And it's the same way for Kyrie and for some people, Kevin Durant as well. In order for you not to say anything negative about him, he's got to be perfect. So, in Ben Simmons' case, he's got to show up with a jump shot that's knocked down, and he's got to be putting points up left and right, which, guess what, is never going to happen because the number 1 and 2 scoring threat for the Nets is Kyrie and KD. So, all right, that I'm gonna end it there, man. I wish I could have had that Barkley audio at the beginning, man, but it didn't record like I wanted to, man. So it is what it is, man. But I'll probably jump over here after the game, man. Y'all come check me out after Boston closes this thing out, and then we'll talk about it. But until next time, peace.